Okay, so now we're into user testing, sometimes called usability testing, and I'm sure you may or may not have been involved in usability testing before, but whenever you see a really good website, you know for a fact that some of the designers will have gone through a session of usability testing. And what this does is essentially make sure that it's focused around the users and that the users can actually interact with the website in a logical way. So just a quote here from Ian Lurie, who's a big sort of UX design advocate, and he just says, "Nothing ruins a great UI like someone using it." And it's so true because you can design all you like, but it's really, as we mentioned earlier, you are not the user. So it's really important whenever you're designing a new digital product or service, new website, whatever it may be, that you just bang it in front of some users. And nowadays, it's really, really easy to do. You can hire a lab, and a lab looks something like this. And at Usio, we have our own usability testing labs. It's just a couple of the guys in the testing lab running through a website there. I think it's like the post office website. So it's relatively straightforward to do. We can you can hire a lab and do it live, or you can even download some software and have a crack at it yourself. And I think the important thing is that you follow a really clear test plan. You have a recruitment brief, so you actually speak to the right users. You make sure that the people you're speaking to are actually your target user, and then you set them some clear tasks to go through. And we can find out at the end of the sessions what it is that they think about it. So some of the metrics you should probably think about, and you should probably think about how long it's taken someone to complete a task, and how many back button clicks and what we call pogo sticking. So that's when people move around a particular thing that you want them to click on without clicking it. How long does it take them to complete a task, and how many tasks do they actually manage to complete? That's pretty important, isn't it? When you think you've got a good user experience, a good user journey, and people aren't actually able to complete that task or complete the key task that you want them to do. Then we kind of think about, do you remember we talked earlier about mental models and conceptual models? So, what's the difference between what the user actually thinks about when they interact with your digital product and service, and what the actual concept is that you're trying to convey. And then just a quick one there. So the number of clicks isn't a usability metric, because often, does it really matter how many clicks someone makes as long as they're able to persevere through to an end completion? And it can get really frustrating when you watch some usability testing. We've done thousands of usability tests over the years, and actually, sometimes you can think that something's really easy to use, but you bang it in front of the users, and they find it actually quite difficult to complete key tasks. So there's just an example here of an output from a usability research test. And this is something we did a little while ago, which was looking at a new interface for some financial services product that we developed. And what we often do when we have a look at the output of the usability research is that we kind of pull together the useful comments and sort of the key things that we actually found. So just some examples here. Users are clear what they need to do in this section, but they'd like some explanation, etc., etc. So we can have the pros and the cons. And what we often do as well is we often produce what we call a traffic light report, which identifies the real elements that we need to think about whenever we're designing. So we often do a sort of red, amber, green. So the really high priority things in red, and etc., etc. So, as I said earlier, pulling out commentary from the users themselves. So I wouldn't mind some explanatory notes underneath, and you can kind of, get a real context for the usability research that's happening themselves, and that aids in your design process. So, yeah, always really important in terms of actually recruiting some users, what I'd recommend is that you do a minimum of 4 users for each segment that you're trying to test. But if you have a limited budget, what's often good to do is to do split your usability test rather than doing 10 at once, for example, as you might do in a standard usability test. Split it up. So users will often find 70 to 80% of the key things that are wrong with your digital product or service off the bat, and then that you get law of diminishing returns, I think, after about 5 or 6 people. So if you can split test down, and you do a design, you do some testing, and then you do a little bit more design, and then a little bit more testing at the end, it's always a good way to go. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of top line on usability tests, and we're going to carry on from here.